Hi people, it's me Anja, my pronouns are she and her, and welcome back to my channel for a new reading vlog. I don't think I've ever made a reading vlog before dedicated to one book, but this book is absolutely so rich and deep and fascinating that I feel like it would be better to dedicate one video to it than to include it in a recent reads video where I would be limited to only talking about it for such a short amount of time, because if you didn't know, in my recent reads videos, I try to keep each book review to over 1 minute but under 2 minutes so that I can keep each review concise and not like go overboard, you know what I mean? So anyway, as the title suggests, I am currently reading Babel. I've never read a book by this author before, but I wanted to read it because I've heard literally so much about it. I'm currently 30% through it. For those who don't know, this book is an adult historical fantasy, and it follows a young Chinese university student who attends like a white university. He's going to Oxford for the first time, and it's set in 1830, if I'm not mistaken, and it's so good so far. Like, I'm really enjoying the characters, the found family. I love his friends. I love like secret societies. I love like academic settings. I love like the conversations surrounding like colonialism and assimilation and racism and colorism and wealth, and whether or not you should share like your wealth with other people or whether or not you should hoard it instead. You know what I mean? Anyway, I don't really know if any of that makes any sense, but so far I'm enjoying this book literally so much. It's so fascinating and it's so well done. I'm just really enjoying like the language conversations and the conversations surrounding like the history of languages and how language like helps you like guide through the world. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like this book reminds me of how like book bannings have been happening recently. And like book bannings have been happening recently because that's how the government can control like the language that people use. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but basically, like, I love conversations surrounding, like, literature and language and how reading gives people power, because knowledge is power, and if you decide to control or monitor said knowledge, you can control a people, a population, if you control how much they can read, what they can read in particular. I don't know if any of that makes any sense. But anyway, I'm really enjoying this book so far. Like I said, I'm like 30% through it right now, and I'm not quite sure what's going to happen next. I don't completely understand the magic, if I'm being completely honest with you, but I'm really enjoying the world building. It's so descriptive. I love the characters. I love the diversity in his friend group. I think it's so good so far. So anyway, there's that. So my second update contains some spoilers, which means that this entire video will include spoilers. I don't usually include spoilers in like my recent reads videos, but like in this video, I just feel like I can't really talk about the intricate details of this book without spoiling it. So basically, if you've read this book, I'm at the point where Anthony has just gone missing, and like the main character and his friends are like reacting to it. And I just want to say, first of all, Victory is my favorite character so far. I love her so much, and I just feel like part of that is that like we're both black, even though I'm half black and half Asian. Like part of me finds her to be the most relatable one. So like the fact that Anthony is also black is just such, I don't know, it's such like an important detail, because like there's a paragraph about how like they realize that they are expendable, and like, aren't black people the most expendable? That sounds rude of me to say, almost racist, but like I feel like the world treats us as if we are the most expendable sometimes, in a sense. I don't know if that makes any sense, but anyway, this book continues to be very fascinating, very relevant, and very important. So with that, I do recommend it so far, even though, like I said, I'm only like 34% through, but I don't really think anything's gonna change, and I think I'm gonna rate it at least 4 stars. So yeah. This subplot that has to do with like Evie, Griffin, and Anthony, and how like they've all like seemingly like disappeared according to the school, or died according to the school, is so intriguing to me, because I know that they're connected to the current Oxford students of color currently studying right now. It's like, I think it's like the consequences of what could happen to them if things go poorly according to the school, and the image that the school has to have and has to maintain. I don't know exactly where this plotline is going to go. I'm very intrigued to learn more about Evie, particularly. I don't even know if Evie is even a student of color, but I'm assuming that she is. Actually, I don't know if that's been revealed yet or not, but anyway, the point is, I'm very, very intrigued. I'm not sure exactly how often I'm going to update you, but probably every single time I think of something new. But anyway, so yeah, that's where I'm at right now. So I just read the interlude, and Rami is such a wonderful, fascinating character. I love him so much. I hope that there are more perspectives from him later on, and especially also from Victory, and maybe even Letty. Like, these characters are so good, and they're so individually well developed and so distinct. Like, I love them so much. This series kind of reminds me of, like, the Great Library series, which is one of my favorite book series that I read, and I want to say, like, upper middle school, early high school, maybe. I don't know. That series is absolutely so good. It's so well done. However, I don't quite think that it did a good job, if I'm remembering correctly, of, like, talking about intersectionality. But I loved, like, the academic setting and everything. For those who don't know, it was this, like, YA historical fantasy series set in a world where, like, the Great Library of Alexandria still existed. So, like, I loved, like, the knowledge and the library and stuff like that. But I wasn't yet into, like, language and literature and, like, history and stuff. That fascination would come later when I read the series of unfortunate events, which I love so much. But anyway, the point is, this book is absolutely so fantastic. I'm almost halfway through. I'm truly enjoying it so much. So I'm like 45% through this book, maybe a little bit more. And basically, again, this is another spoiler. I just came to the part where Victory and Rami confront Robin about the Hermes Society and how he's been doing this for the past 3 years, but, like, he didn't tell them. And, like, Letty is completely, like, out of the loop, as we all know, and I'm really afraid for her, in a sense. Like, I'm afraid that what happened to her is going to happen, I'm afraid that what happened to Evie is going to happen to Letty. Like, I'm afraid that, like, she's the one that's going to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. You know what I mean? I don't know, just because she's the most, like, almost, I don't know if this is the right word, but the most privileged out of all of them. Not because, like, not to say that, like, she doesn't experience, like, mistreatment from her peers when she's a woman in a man's space, but she's the only white one, so she does experience, like, white privilege, in a sense. But, like, I don't know if that makes any sense. Hopefully my theory is wrong. So, yeah. Now, I don't know if this is a proper parallel to make, or if it's just my thoughts that make no sense. So basically, I'm at the point in the book where the professor has been tossed overboard, and it made me think about how I think the relationship between Robin and the professor, whom Robin has referred to now as his father, because he keeps talking about how he has killed his father, but I've never referred to the professor as his father, because I know that parents aren't supposed to treat you as if you're expendable. They aren't supposed to treat you as if you are a vessel for their dreams and their desires. You know what I mean? Like, kids are not copy and paste versions of their parents, and it's completely unfair for parents to treat their children like that. And I thought about how, like, I don't know if this makes any sense, about how, like, Robin is like a person of color in this white colonial space, and how, like, this space will never accept him for who he is. And in the same way, kind of, his professor father will never accept him for who he is either, which is why his professor father never truly, like, adopted him. and why to him he's always been like his world but not his son, and he has this whole separate family that he does recognize as his family, but he doesn't recognize like Robin or Griffin or anybody else as his family either. Does that make any sense? Because their relationship is transactional, whereas a real family relationship is not just transactional, it is also emotional as well. And like the relationship between like, I don't know, people of color and like colonial systems will always be like transactional and not necessarily emotional, because we are seen as like pieces. We're not seen as people. We're seen as like chess pieces or game pieces where like other people can move us. Like it's all a game to them, but to us it's our lives. You know, it's kind of related to how I was talking about before about like being expendable, and how like the system or society like treats us as if we're not real people, but we are. But we just have to like navigate it, because like I said, to them it's just a game. Does that make any sense? I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but those are my percolating thoughts. This book is really good. So now I'm 20 chapters into this book, and basically what just happened is that Letty has announced that she is their ally. And honestly, that scene made me tear up. It made me cry, because it really goes to show, like, when people are confronted and faced with their privilege, and they have to understand, like, how privileged they are, and they are, like, being confronted by, like, marginalized people, how easy it is to choose to be an ally, to choose to be kind, to be compassionate. You know what I mean? Like, everything that Letty represents, like how I was saying earlier about how, like, she has the most privilege out of the four of them, and I love that, like, she chose to stand by her friends. And, like, so many people, like, in history and modern day, when they are confronted with their own privilege, and they have knowledge and tools to not be so problematic or so transphobic or so whatever, they continue to be incredibly transphobic or problematic or whatever, even though they have the language and the tools to not be. They have the language and the tools to, like, start questioning everything that they've been taught and everything, but they don't, because it's not, I don't know, it's easier for them to stay in their stable, like, comfort zone. But, like, I feel like you have to go out of your comfort zone. You have to confront things that you've never thought about before, ever. You know what I mean? I don't know. That whole scene, and especially how it ends, is so incredibly, like, relevant. You know what I mean? And how, like, comforting her instead of the other way around. The way it's written is so incredibly profound, and it's so good. I don't know if any of that makes any sense, but basically this book is really good, as I've said before. I'm now 67% through this book, and I know what I said earlier about how, like, I really hope that what happens to Letty is not what happened to Evie earlier, but, like, that was before I know the information now about Evie than I did before, and this is not what I meant. Letty, what the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? I'm so, like, angry, but also disappointed more in myself than I am in her, if that makes any sense. Like, what the fuck? Like, I'm so disappointed, but also angry, but also, like, I have mixed feelings. Like, I can't say that I can't believe that she did this, because I can believe that she did this. Because, like, sometimes, I don't know. I was going to say earlier that, like, Letty reminds me of Sejanus from, the Hunger Games, but now she reminds me way more of Snow. Anyway, the point is, I'm 67% through this book, and I'm unbelievably angry and disappointed at Letty. What the fuck was that? I'm now 72% through this book, and I just finished reading Letty's interlude. I think that Letty's interlude is very, very important in this book, not because it justifies anything, but because it explains things. You know what I mean? There's a quote in here where she's like, why bite the hand that feeds you? And that really truly goes to show that she truly didn't understand. Like, why bite the hand that feeds you? Like, they were not fed. Her friends were not fed properly. Like, they had to beg for it. To use this analogy, they had to beg for it. Beggars can't be choosers. They shouldn't have been beggars in the first place. There's a much bigger picture here that Letty just never understood. And that, ultimately, is why she betrays them, because she never understood it. She tried to, but she didn't. She didn't really. You know what I mean? Anyway, I'm speaking to the choir here, obviously. Like, if you're watching this video, you've already read the book, or if you haven't read the book, you're just watching this video with spoilers. So, anyway, all that to say, I think that the interlude in Letty's perspective is very, very important, because it goes to show how much privilege she has and how she represents so many real people in real life, in modern day, right now. You know what I mean? Anyway, I'm almost done with this book, actually. So, that's exciting. I don't actually know how this book is going to wrap up, but I'm intrigued. So here I go. So I'm now like 85% of this book, and basically I just finished reading the scene where Letty is confronting like Victory and Robin, and this is the first time that she is really talking to them since she killed Rami. And it basically, like, this reminds me of like the relationship between like Sterling and Griffin. You know what I mean? Like, this is a parallel to that, and like it really goes to show how history repeats itself. So anyway, I only have like 100 pages left, so that's my update for now. So in conclusion, I finished the book, or maybe the book finished me, because I rated it 5 stars. The ending made me cry multiple times. Like, there was a point that I put the book down because I couldn't stop crying. This book is unbelievably so brilliant and clever and just so good. I love the ways in which the author talks about like colonialism and how like the consequences of it, and racism, and how it all like interconnects and everything, especially with all the characters. All the characters are so well done and so authentic, from the professors to the students, from Letty to Victory. Like, this book is so well done. It's so awesome. Like, this quote from the very beginning of the book, I feel like it encapsulates so many things. It's right there in the beginning. I just really enjoyed how this book did it. Like, the execution is excellent. The world building is excellent. The writing is excellent. I want to read the Poppy War trilogy. I said 4 years ago that I wanted to read the Poppy War trilogy because I thought that it was too complicated. I don't normally read adult fantasy and whatever, but this book is absolutely excellent. It's iconic. It's just as good as everyone else says. I think this book is absolutely so amazing, and it's so emotional, and I just loved it literally so much. So yeah, I guess that's my final review. I do have a few more thoughts about this book as a whole, though, so let me get into that. I feel like everybody talks about this quote in particular from this book, and don't get me wrong, this quote is absolutely so true and authentic, and it's so real, but for me, this quote is far more, like, important and relevant, because, like, no matter how many reasons you can give to someone to be a good person, to stand on the right side of history, they have far more selfish reasons to stand by and, like, save their own skin. You know what I mean? And choose to be selfish. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes any sense. And this quote also is so incredibly important because it reminds me of what I was saying earlier about how colonialism treats people as if they're not actually people, as if they are pieces. But we're not pieces, we're just people. We're not expendable, and we should not be treated as if we are expendable, because we're not. I don't know. I know I'm speaking to the choir here, so I don't know if anything I'm saying really has a point. But, yeah. So in conclusion, I don't know another way to end this video except to constantly repeat myself by saying that I highly recommend this book. It is so good. It is so brilliant and clever and smart and so relevant and so important. I loved all the characters. I loved the world building. I loved the conversations surrounding like colonialism and racism and the ways in which those systems of oppression treat people of color. Like, this book is so good and it's so awesome and it's so well done. It's so emotional. So anyway, like I said earlier, I rated this book 5 stars and I truly loved it so much. So yeah, that aside, I don't know how I'm supposed to go to work tomorrow when I can't stop thinking about this book. And I can't stop, like, the characters really impacted me and I love them dearly. Every single one of them. Like, even Letty, like, they feel so authentic and so real and so honest. But anyway, in conclusion, I'm not quite sure if I'm going to do more reading vlogs dedicated to one book in the future, but maybe. I don't know. This book was absolutely so fantastic and so excellent. But anyway, like I said earlier, please go read it. It's so good. But anyway, in conclusion, if you enjoyed this video, please don't hesitate to give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below the books emoji if you made it all the way to the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel if you're new. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!